Hi, I'm Scott Wrighton. I serve as Decatur City Manager, and every week you can click this link or tune in to this place and learn a little bit more about what's going on in your city government. This time I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the city's demolition program, focusing especially on some of the really large buildings and, as a consequence, some of the really large eyesores that the city has to deal with. In the last year, the city has been influential in getting down through a cooperative agreement with the school district, the old Woodrow Wilson Junior High School over on Oakland and Sunset. As a part of our economic development incentive deal with the Tillamook Corporation, we're participating in a portion of the cost, not all of it, for the removal of the old McClellan Grocery Building, which is up on North Martin Luther King, immediately across the street to the north from the old Prairie Farms, now Tillamook building. Just to the south of the Tillamook building, through the work of the private property owner, not through any participation of the city, it took nearly a year and a half for the old Walrus Manufacturing Building to come down right between Wabash Street and the existing Norfolk Southern line. These are all buildings that were built decades ago, sometimes more than a century ago, that have outlived their usefulness. In some cases were derelict, in some cases abandoned, and in far too many cases they were dangerous and served as a drag on the mayor and city council's long-term neighborhood revitalization goals. These are buildings that, in the best of all possible worlds, leaders from the past should have cleared out a long time ago. But they didn't. And so now the leaders of 2024 have to make difficult decisions sometimes, because these buildings are not only expensive to bring down, but also have environmental problems associated with them as well. Of course, part of the public policy debate about these large buildings that are derelict is there a way to reuse some of them? And in some cases the answer is yes. In some cases the answer is no. But as a practical matter, these buildings, if they're allowed to deteriorate and are just neglected entirely, then after a while, time takes its toll on these buildings, and it's not reasonable to try to save them. Especially when there's no one who has a good idea, a creative idea, for how some of these buildings might be repurposed. And so if they're too far gone in terms of having been neglected by their private owners for all these years, and no one has a reuse for it, then sadly sometimes it falls either to the owner if they're responsible and they're around, or to the city if they're not responsible and not around, to decide that the only other thing that can be done is to tear them down and to clear the site. And that's expensive, and it's expensive for the taxpayers. Recently, the City Council reached an agreement with the school district with regard to the old Garfield School at West Grand and Oakland. Thankfully, the school district has helped keep up that building since they ceased using it for educational purposes. They boarded up the windows, they still mow the grass, they drain the pipes, they keep the vandals out, they keep it lit, they check on it periodically, and that's useful because it's not going to be deteriorating as much because of that effort by the school district, while the city and some of our development partners try to find an alternative use for the building. We want to do everything we possibly can to find a repurposing for these older buildings, especially the ones that aren't so far gone that they can't be saved. We want to do that whenever we can. If we fail in doing that, either through the development partner that we already have or through a different one, then the last ditch solution would be to demolish the building, which we will share with the school district if it's necessary, in the same way we did with Woodrow Wilson Junior High School. But that still doesn't clear out all the old buildings. There's still several other large commercial buildings that are in different states of deterioration. And we're also dealing with some old schools, the YWCA at the corner of Main and El Dorado. The owner is not stepping up there either. On top of that, the city is trying to decide what should be the best use of property for the old Durfee School at East Grand and North Jasper, as well as the former Centennial, also called Copenbarger School, on Condit Street between Woodford and Jordan Street in the Torrance Park neighborhood. These are schools that haven't been used as schools for decades, and many years ago the school district sold them to a private property owner without really taking a full assessment of the fact that the person they were selling it to didn't have the means or the resources or even the vision for how they might transform those properties into something that would be useful, and as a result, they became a derelict. So at the next City Council meeting, the City Council is going to begin a discussion about just this next phase, this next chapter, if you will, in how do we deal with these old buildings that probably should have been either repurposed or removed long ago, but for whatever reason were allowed to remain derelict for too long. In what cases is it possible for us to use our reserves to take them out? In what situations can we still expect or demand or sue private property owners who have means to go after them, so that as little as possible of these significant expenses fall to the taxpayer? These are hard decisions, and the council will begin talking about that at their next meeting in April. I look forward to bringing you some more updates on that dialogue as the mayor and city council make their decisions. Thanks for tuning in and learning a little bit more about the context of some of these large buildings we deal with.